Ask their opinion. Asking someone's opinion of something is a surefire conversation starter. Choose whatever topic you'd like. Politics, sports, the latest news from Wall Street. Just make sure it's something you want to talk about too. If you are not genuinely curious about it, you won't be fully engaged in the exchange, and your chance of forging a real connection diminishes. As busy and seasoned professionals, sometimes we rush to get down to business. We would all benefit from remembering to stay curious and ask varied questions. Don't just stick to the usual, and be prepared to share your opinions as well. After all, you are trying to establish a dialogue. When pursuing the opinion route, it's best to stay diplomatic with people you're still getting to know. Remember the advice every mother seems to dole out. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. This doesn't mean you have to lie about what you think. What you don't say can speak volumes too. The options here are endless. Here are a few examples. What did you think about that speaker? This is an interesting option because it could so easily be a throwaway, not just for the person being addressed, but for you. Before you ask someone else this question, ask yourself if you truly care, and why you should. If you ask the question and you're not even interested, it's going to show. But there could be any number of reasons why you are in fact interested in the response to the question. Perhaps there was a speaker comment you missed, or wanted to make sure you understood. Maybe you are in the midst of planning a speaker-led event yourself. Once you are clear on why you care, then you can form the most fruitful follow-up questions. What's your take on the new CEO at fill in the blank? A variation of this question might be, what's your take on the first-round draft picks? Asking about the latest corporate or sports news event of the moment can lead to a conversation about all kinds of things. Employment histories and favorite sports teams are just the beginning. The corporate twist especially often leads to the what do you do question. What's your view of the recent foreign policy changes? Opening a political discussion with someone you just met might be stepping into a minefield, but it can be a great way to probe your connection with someone who is already an acquaintance. This type of question, of course, alludes to political dispositions without flat-out asking about them. It can also lead to any number of other topics. If you weave in a reference to where you read a particular tidbit, for instance, that can open up a discussion about the state of the media today. Querying people about their political opinions can lead to extremely engaging and emotionally charged conversations. Politics tend to reveal the ways people are either united or polarized. If both of you are enjoying the back and forth, keep going. If things get too heated, sidestep conflict with a more conciliatory remark such as, I'll have to give that perspective some thought. Pose a hypothetical. A variation on asking for someone's opinion is to ask what the person thinks of a hypothetical situation. These queries are thought-provoking and often coax people out of their pat response patterns. Hypothetical questions are best used after a bit of small talk, once a connection has been formed, but is still growing in strength. These questions can reveal unexpected things about people to one another, and can range from the professional to the personal, from the practical to the fanciful. How would you handle it if you received a promotion over one of your closest colleagues? What decision would you have made about that situation if you were CEO? What would be the first 3 things you'd do if you won the lottery? When posing hypothetical questions, you want to stay sensitive to the fact that these types of questions can deepen the conversation, but if used in the wrong way, they may seem invasive or off-putting. You can diffuse the potential for discomfort by prefacing the question with preliminary queries such as, do you mind if I pick your brain about something? Or, I'm dealing with a thorny problem. Can I pose the hypothetical situation to you and get your opinion? Some people do especially well with these types of questions. Think back to the communication style matrix in Chapter 3. Zigzags and circles love hypothetical questions. The zigzags, for their intellectual framework and idea-exploring premises. The circles for the personal aspects of the questions, and how they might be able to help puzzle out solutions. When choosing whether to use a hypothetical question as a conversation starter, you may want to determine the person's communication style first, to see if the individual may be open to this level of inquiry. Seek advice. Advice is a powerful conversation opener in cases when the other person can actually be of assistance. When people can provide assistance, it makes them feel helpful. This creates a positive mood memory, a concept that's covered in detail in Chapter 8. Be clear about the questions you ask, however broad or specific they may be, so that they accurately reflect your interest. If you ask something that, as it turns out, the other person can't help with, then follow up by asking if the person has any ideas about how you can find the information you're after. Being able to give even general advice makes most people feel good and more prone to connecting to you. Can you tell me how to get to? This opener can be a little tricky, because the person responding will probably expect that once you get the directions you need, e.g. to the bar, the hotel spa, etc., that will be the end of the conversation. Still, it can be a natural and straightforward way to approach someone. If someone asks you this type of question, offer to escort them and chat along the way. Which do you suggest? Depending on the environment you're in, you might ask for a recommendation about a breakout session, a course, a restaurant, or hotel. You fill in the blank. This type of question is an easy conversation starter and allows for a simple follow-up, how come? You could also ask something more specific based on the other person's response, such as, is the content of the session basic or advanced? Or, what dish do you recommend? Is the professor a tough grader? Compliment. To compliment someone is to express praise, commendation, or admiration. A compliment is the exact opposite of flattery, because by definition flattery is fake or insincere. Compliments are signs of respect. Of course, you must be genuine in your compliment, lest it come off as flattery. But if there is something that you truly admire and want to express about someone, giving the person a compliment can be a great way to open a conversation. Not only does it create positive energy between you and the person you're addressing, it can also build trust and foster greater understanding. When people realize that you've noticed something positive about them, chances are they'll start looking for things they admire about you, too. This technique is often most effective when followed by a supporting question that reflects your genuine feelings and curiosity. I love that shirt, tie, scarf, jacket, necklace. One obvious but helpful follow-up to this kind of compliment is, where did you get it? I once admired a necklace a woman was wearing, and when I asked where she'd found it, she replied, Ireland. Her response led us into an energizing conversation about travel, one of my favorite vices. The where follow-up can get you talking about any number of topics, shopping, traditions, or family keepsakes, for instance. You'll never know until you ask. I thought the question you asked was really interesting. In my experience, this comment is suitable when in the audience at a conference, speaker, or roundtable event. You can then follow up this compliment with a question. What did you think of the person's response? Another version of this technique works well when building connections with your coworkers. If someone has handled a business situation in an admirable way, compliment your colleague on it. Then ask the person how and why he chose to handle it in that manner. Not only will you learn more about people through their responses, and possibly improve your own professional interpersonal skills, but you'll also strike the right mood memory with the people you're addressing, making them feel helpful and recognized. Use the news, the events-based inquiry. This type of inquiry can be related to the event you're attending, a current event from the morning paper, or even a simple life event such as buying a car. Use the event as a reference point to generate conversation about broad opinions and specific details, and use responses to continue enriching the conversation. Here are some examples, with suggestions for following up on possible responses. Have you been to this event before? Use the response to discuss similar events, asking follow-up questions about how this event compares to others the person may have attended, or upcoming events that may be of interest. What do you think about that fill-in-the-blank news story? Choosing a widely covered current event will open up more possible paths of conversation than asking about something obscure. Follow-up questions could range from the plight of the people involved in the story, to the ways in which different media outlets are covering it, to previous events that current circumstances call to mind. If someone hasn't heard of or been following the news, that person won't have much to say about it, of course. You can handle this situation by quickly sketching in the story for the other person, or simply introducing a new topic of conversation. Have you ever owned a Honda? Asking ordinary, everyday questions such as this one can be surprisingly revealing. Someone you've just met, or are still getting to know, is likely to feel comfortable giving opinions about something as neutral as a consumer product. And this type of question makes most people feel that you value their opinion enough to ask it. Follow-up questions can lead to conversations about the price of gas, the manufacturing methods of different countries, even road trip memories. You name it.